Rimsky-Yoon says clarification is needed over blank vote election proposal. Firefighters killed in blaze in Harbin on the mainland. And Washington slaps new sanctions on Pyongyang over Sony hacking case.
Good evening. Debate rages over the merits of a blank vote mechanism ahead of the start of the new round of public consultation on political reform. Proposed by Basic Law Committee member Albert Chen, the mechanism would see the 2017 chief executive election invalidated if more than half of the voters choose to cast a blank vote. Diane To reports.
The law professor said there are three dominant views in society on political reform. People who are staunchly against Beijing's framework, people who believe Hong Kong should pocket whatever proposal the government puts forward, and those who are adopting a wait-and-see attitude. Albert Chen said the blank vote mechanism would be an important consideration for people in the third category. He said those who would cast a blank vote are either against the voting system or disapproving of all the candidates that were put forward by the nominating committee. And if more than half of the voters express this view, then it is logical and reasonable to declare the election invalid. Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yoon stressed today the legal definition of blank votes must be clarified to avoid confusion. Yoon said details still need to be ironed out, such as whether people would simply leave the ballot blank or be given a none-of-the-above option, and how a blank vote would be differentiated from a spoilt vote. Democratic Party Chairwoman Emily Lau disagrees with Chen's proposed mechanism. Echoing the sentiment of many pan-Democrats, Lau said what people want is not just to veto nominees, but a genuine choice of CE candidates. But fellow party member Law Chi-kwong believes the blank vote proposal has many merits conceptually. He understands why many pan-Democrats don't think it's enough. Still, he urged them to consider the reality.
Whenever we are talking something very concrete about our constitutional structure, we have to realize the fact that the high degree of autonomy is defined not by Hong Kong people, but defined by Beijing government.
But to achieve progress in political reform, Law said it's key for the government and business sector to address social grievances.
If the business sector is not willing to give up some of their privilege in the existing political system, then it will be very difficult to design a package that the general public in general will be supportive. But if the business sector and the government are willing to make something substantially democratic within the framework, and then when the public support it, I think that the ball now will be in the court of the pan-Democrat.
He says that's because the pan-Democrats who support genuine democracy would have to consider any proposal backed by a majority of the people. Diane To, TVB News.
The Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury has warned slow growth could become the norm for the local economy. As for the labor market, Chan Ka-keung says Hong Kong now enjoys almost full employment. Joao de Silva reports.
Between September and November last year, the unemployment rate stood at 3.3%. As for the overall performance of the local economy in 2014, estimates point to a 2% growth. And this relatively slow growth is likely to repeat itself in the new year. This morning, Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Chan Ka-keung, took to the airwaves to explain why slow growth could become the new trend. Chan noted that a land shortage is not only affecting the housing supply, but also the development of local businesses. He also said a lack of manpower in the construction sector is increasing construction costs and placing an additional drag on the economy. Chairman of the Construction Industry Employees General Union, Chow Lun-Kyu, concurred. Chow said the industry currently employs 360,000 workers and is in need of an extra 10,000, particularly those with specific technical skills. He said more young people are interested in taking up the trade, but added that it takes 3 to 6 months to complete their training. And although there are some among the business community that would like to bring in foreign workers to address the current shortage, the union opposes the idea, hoping instead that higher salaries will help attract new recruits. Meantime, an alliance of social activists today handed in a petition at the central government offices slamming public spending on large infrastructure projects and demanding policies to bridge the wealth gap. João da Silva, TVB News.
Various groups are voicing their demands ahead of the chief executive's policy address later this month. Housing, education, and efforts to resolve society's conflicts are among people's top concerns. Liz Yoon has that story.
A group of demonstrators staged a rally this morning calling for a better education system for ethnic minorities.
It needs an overhaul because we keep falling into a vicious cycle of unemployment, government dependency and crime.
A key focus is on boosting the Chinese proficiency. Andrews said changes are also needed in policies relating to employment and racial discrimination so that ethnic minorities, many of whom are born here, can really become a part of Hong Kong society. Meanwhile, 341 people aged between 18 to 40 completed an online survey last month conducted by the Junior Chamber International Hong Kong. 45% of the respondents think the upcoming policy address should focus on resolving society's conflicts. 40% want the government to work on improving the upward mobility of young people and home purchase assistance. 37% said housing policies concern them the most, while 14% ranked constitutional development and the SAR administration as their top concern. And more than 3/4 of the respondents don't believe young people have been adequately consulted for the policy address. Local National People's Congress Deputy Priscilla Lau, who helped analyze the survey results, called for a rational approach to resolving the problems facing us.
We will in the same community. In order to solve a problem, we should express our opinion, discuss, and with the others, listen to the others, and then try to compromise. But we are lacking this kind of attitude or no atmosphere or mechanism.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying will be presenting his third policy address on 14th January, and he's expected to attend a question and answer session on the next day. Liz Yun, TVB News.
A fire at a ceramics warehouse in northeast China has killed 5 firefighters. The youngest victim was just 18 years old. The blaze began yesterday afternoon in the city of Harbin and raged for more than 20 hours. 13 other firefighters and a security guard were injured. 3 of them are in critical condition. The warehouse is part of an 11-story residential building. Officials say the firefighters died when a floor above them collapsed. A preliminary investigation suggests it was caused by an overloaded electrical system used by tenants to power their heaters. Turning overseas, the United States has slapped a new round of sanctions on North Korea. This in response to the massive cyber attack on Sony Pictures last month. As Alan Bookney reports, the White House warns this is just the opening salvo in the U.S. response.
Washington insists North Korea is responsible for the attack on Sony, although there is some doubt in the cyber community. The North denies responsibility. It's the first time the U.S. has imposed sanctions on a country in retaliation for a cyber attack on an American company.
We'll believe anything he tells us.
The hacking was over the movie The Interview, a comedy about a plot to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Sony Pictures initially pulled the film in the face of threats of terrorist attacks. It flip-flopped and released The Interview after pressure from the public and the White House not to bow to the threats. 10 North Koreans were singled out for sanctions, but they didn't necessarily have anything to do with the attack on Sony. Senior U.S. officials said anyone who works for the government in Pyongyang or helps North Korea is fair game. The sanctions also target 3 organizations closely tied to the North's administration. The country's primary intelligence agency, a state-owned entity that Washington says serves as an arms dealer that exports missiles and weapons technology, and a trading group that supports defense research. U.S. President Barack Obama has also warned Pyongyang that the White House is considering whether to put North Korea back on its list of state sponsors of terrorism. That could jeopardize aid to the country on a global scale. Because the North is already under tough U.S. sanctions, this latest round is expected to have just a limited effect. But American officials portray them as a swift, decisive response to North Korean behavior they say has gone far over the line. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
Indonesian authorities have confirmed the discovery of 2 large objects believed to be part of missing AirAsia flight QZ851, that is QZ8501. The discovery is raising hopes that searchers are honing in on the wreckage of the doomed airliner. James Aiken has the latest.
6 days after it fell out of the sky, sonar equipment detected 2 large objects in the Java Sea that could be part of the AirAsia plane. Officials say the objects, the largest of which is more than 9 meters long, are on the ocean floor under 30 meters of water. An oil slick has also been spotted. The U.S. Navy is among those taking part in the Indonesian-led multinational search operation.
Well, the U.S. Samson is using their hull-mounted sonar to listen. And I won't comment as to the success of that right now, but they are using some technology organic to the ship right now.
Adams says the USS Fort Worth arrived in the Java Sea this morning to assist with the air and sea search operation. Search crews are now preparing to send down a remote-operated vehicle in the hope of capturing images. In addition to the bodies that are being recovered, recovery crews are beginning to find crash debris. An emergency exit door and slide are among the discoveries. For families of the crash victims, news of the find after 6 agonizing days is providing some measure of relief.
Yes, optimistically, but you cannot guarantee everything based on the nature conditions, sea states, everything.
Bad weather and high waves have slowed the search, and today officials widened the search area as debris may have drifted hundreds of kilometers. It's not clear what caused the Airbus A320 to plunge into the Java Sea last Sunday with 162 passengers and crew on board en route from Surabaya to Singapore. Minutes before losing contact, the pilot told air traffic control he was approaching threatening clouds. One theory is that the plane might have stalled as the pilot attempted to avoid the storm. James Aiken, TVB News.
Police in India have arrested 3 men for allegedly gang raping a 22-year-old Japanese research scholar over a period of 3 weeks. The woman was taken by a tour guide from Calcutta, where she worked, to a Buddhist pilgrimage center in Bodh Gaya in northeastern India. Police say the tour guide was joined by 4 others in raping her and in keeping her in captivity. The woman managed to escape December 26th. She then filed a complaint. The 2 other suspects are still being sought. India has been plagued by sexual violence, and public outrage in recent years has led to tough new laws and a doubling of prison terms to up to 20 years.
Still ahead in our newscast, hopeful signs in resolving a dispute over poultry delivery.
It's going to go on for not just weeks, but some months more. But I believe we will do it in 2015. I believe we'll end Ebola in 2015.
Optimism in the fight against the Ebola outbreak. And Andy Murray all over Rafael Nadal in Abu Dhabi.
Hi there. I've seen your weakness.
She's perfect for you. So what are you waiting for, Barry?
This blur is a man. We're gonna have to up our game.
Just go. Stay safe.
Monday, The Flash at 10:40 on Pearl.
Killer whales get a bad rap, but research is revealing these whales to be highly intelligent.